Another point that we need to remember is whenever chest drain is inserted, say for instance you have inserted for pleural effusion, and if you know the effusion is a large effusion, so when you are draining it, never drain all of the effusion at one go. You should always do it in a gradient manner, because sudden expansion of lung leads to more negative pressure inside the lung and can cause flash pulmonary edema and can make the patient cough. So if you estimate the pleural effusion to be about 1 liter to 2 liters, then what you should be doing is you should at a time either let out only 300 ml to 500 ml of fluid at a time. So keep an eye on the chest drain bottle, and once the amount comes to 500, clamp it and wait for another half an hour before unclamping it, and then only allow another 500 ml to come, and once that 500 ml has come, you again clamp it for another half an hour. So this allows the lung to expand slowly as opposed to it expanding suddenly. Now in situations where there is tension pneumothorax, conditions like tension pneumothorax wherein there is a valve mechanism in the pleural cavity which is only allowing air to come out and not preventing the air to go away from the chest, then what happens is the mediastinum gets shifted towards the opposite side. So now this is a dangerous situation and the lung is collapsed. So there is a huge pneumothorax with the collapsed lung and the mediastinum shifted. In such situation, in an emergency, you have to insert the chest drain, and this is a life-saving procedure. In such situations, you don't wait for the lung to expand slowly or anything. You just put a drain, connect it to the underwater bottle, and then allow the air to come through. But in pleural effusions, when there is a large effusion, say on an X-ray, if you see there's a huge effusion, and when you insert a chest drain, in that situations you allow for the lung to expand slowly. So now that we have seen how a chest drain is inserted, and now we know what are the indications that it is being inserted for, then we will see when to take out a chest drain. So depending on the indication, like for instance if it is a post-operative patient or a patient who had thoracic surgery, either a cardiac surgery, usually in cardiac surgery there is a mediastinal drain and there is a pleural drain, either one or two, so mediastinal and pleural drains. Whereas in thoracotomy there is usually only pleural, either there will be one apical and one basal. So usually for decortication surgeries. So there is an apical one for letting out any air and a basal one to letting out any fluid that is drained. Whereas in cardiac surgery there is a mediastinal one draining the mediastinum, that is the pericardial space, and there are pleural either left or right, and to drain the pleural spaces. So in either situation, when to take out the drain, for that we need to know the indication. So if it is for a pneumothorax, you should make sure that the causative factor for pneumothorax is stopped. So basically what it means is when the chest drain stops bubbling, that is the only time when you can take the chest drain out. So when you go to the bedside of the patient, you ask the patient to cough. I mean, when the patient coughs, what he is doing is raising the intrathoracic pressure, and if there is any air that is there, it will come out through the tube and you will see it as bubbles in the your chest drain bottle. So if there are bubbles when the patient coughs, then it is not an indication that drain needs to stay. When the patient coughs, there are no bubbling and there is only movement in the pleural or the fluid level in the tube, then and if the chest X-ray shows the lung is fully expanded, in such situations you can take the drain out. So whereas for pleural effusion, if the patient has been the drain has been inserted for pleural effusion, drainage of less than 150 ml in 24 hours, you can confidently take. Some units believe in less than 200 ml, but in 24 hours, and some units believe in 100 ml in 24 hours. So depending on how cautious you want to be or how relaxed you are with your rules, and the indication, of course, if it is a malignant effusion, if it is a recurring effusion, if it is an infective effusion, you want to err on the side of 100. Whereas if it is for other like a low albumin situation, or which you are already correcting, and low protein situation, or a heart failure situation where you are already treating the patient with diuretics, then you can accept between 200 to 150 ml in 24 hours. So depending on the indication, if in the last 24 hours, if the drainage is between 100 to 200 ml or less than that, then the chest drain can be removed. Now how do we remove the chest drain? When the drain is removed, again patient should be sitting upright, and there should be 2 nurses who should be doing this, or doctors, whoever. And what you should instruct the patient is that you are going to you'll inform the you'll inform the patient that you are going to remove the chest drain. It is not going to be as painful as the insertion process, but he will have some amount of pain. And what you should ask him to take is 3 deep breaths, and on the 3rd deep breath you are going to take the drain out. So the 3rd breath, he should take a deep breath and hold it. He should not breathe out immediately. So you should demonstrate to the patient as well that you should take a deep breath in, just like this. The 3rd breath, breathe in and hold. So when he is holding, that is the time you pull the tube out. Because when the patient has taken a deep breath, then the lungs are completely expanded. There is positive pressure inside the pleural cavity. And the worst period is when the tube is coming just outside the chest wall. The holes that are there, some of the holes will be outside, some will be inside. That is the point when air can get sucked in. So keep this time as brief. So as quickly as possible, with a jerk, pull the drain out. And once the drain is out, as one nurse is pulling the drain out, the other nurse should press on the wound, the cut that is there, so that with the gauze, so that air will not get sucked in. And as she is pressing, the first nurse who has taken out the drain should keep the drain away, discard it, and then tie the long thread that we have left, the first string suture, underneath the gauze that she is holding, and then tie it tightly. Once it is tightened only, the first nurse should release the pressure on the wound. Otherwise, again, because of the tract, the air can get into the chest wall. And all through this process, till 1 or 2 knots are tied, the patient is holding the breath. So the process should be rapid, because you can't expect the patient to keep on holding breath forever. They will pass out and have other problems. So it should be a rapid process. So I'll just try and demonstrate how quickly it should be done. So the patient takes the 3rd breath and holds, tube is taken out, pressure is applied, and then tied, and patient breathes out. That's how quick it should be, as I have done. Then the chances of having a pneumothorax following drain removal will be minimal. If in case of doubt of whether the drain needs to be taken out, or if you are not sure about how the drain needs to be taken out, always ask senior help. And in cardiac surgery, that is the dictum. I keep on repeating this, that if you're not sure, ask for help. So I hope this talk on intercostal chest drains is useful. I'm sure I might have missed some of the points, but if there are any such points, you could refer books. There is a book by Bojar on perioperative care in cardiac surgery. This book is available as a book form in the ICU. Also, it is available in electronic form in all the computers in the hospital, or at least in cardiac surgical department. Please go through the relevant chapter, and if you have any doubts, please ask your senior. Thank you.